Calls to stop antagonizing China. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. We're going to have a look at an article discussing calls to stop antagonizing China, coming from, well, a state that derives a lot of its revenue from China, so it's not at all surprising. Now, before we jump into this article, let's just refresh ourselves with the current iron ore prices, so all of you that have invested in iron ore can be very, very happy. So we can see here it's sitting at 221 USD when I just captured this chart this morning. There you go, everyone. Now, government royalties, the budget that our government has, is set on a price of iron ore at $50. $50. So it's a very conservative budget. So you can see here, well, we're pretty lucky at the moment. Now, this has flow-on effects. I remember when coal was doing quite well, 2011, around that time. This is just when we started our architectural practice, and we managed to somehow get work for mining companies, for some of the bigger mining companies, and it helped us grow our business. And I would be flat out. I had 4 people working just on tender submissions for big builders to try and win tenders. We were getting paid for it, so that was good. And yeah, it was great. And it was just taking off. These mining companies were spending on accommodation, on equipment, on buildings to attract more talent because it was just going crazy. So I'm hoping if this is sustained, we'll start to see capital expenditure in these mining companies, and now it will flow through to other parts of the economy. If you're in the game, guys, let us know how it's going. We don't tend to do much in that sector in the moment. Maybe I should be, doing the phone calls, because we did all the mine industry area buildings for, the service buildings for Dornier and Caval Ridge and so many others. Good old volumetric modular, and of course now that's helped with all the education work that we're doing. So ugly mining buildings. Oh, no, they weren't ugly. They were utility mining buildings. Some of them look nice, to now some beautiful schools. It's funny how life works. So let's have a look at the iron ore industry from a global perspective. This data is from 2019, so it's bigger than now, but it's still all relative. It's one of the biggest exports in the world. The economic complexity of it, the product complexity, is negative 1.87. Remember, we had the iron ore age, guys. It's not that complex. That's it. Huge number of exports and huge importers. Now, Australia is the number 1 exporter. Brazil is number 2. Brazil had supply issues. They had a mine dam burst, and that limited their ability to get supply on there, which is having an impact on prices. Now, China is the number 1 importer of iron ore. You'll hear in the news, I've read it in the news, there's concerns that China is trying to pull away from Australian iron ore, but they're not alone. There are other suppliers for iron ore as well. Now, share of exports, you can see we've just dominated. Australia has been an iron ore exporting country, since 2029, and if not before. We can see the net iron ore trade. No surprise here. China's number 1. Australia is exporting it out. Even Brazil, Russia, Mongolia, North Korea is exporting a lot of iron ore. And these are the tariffs that different countries have in place. So some have some tariffs, Mongolia, a few African countries. Are they even net exporters? Nope, they just have tariffs. So remember, a tariff is a tax that the consumer pays. Okay? It's to protect against foreign competition that may be better, cheaper, smarter than the local competition or a burgeoning industry that you're trying to grow up. That's why some people are calling on Australia to have tariffs. That will drive up costs for all of consumers, but it's also a push to increase our economic complexity because it's just getting worse. So there's suggestions that we implement protectionist strategies like colonial governments back in the day. Now, iron ore in Western Australia. This is from a map from 2020, just showing you all of the iron ore mines, or a selection of operating mines in Australia. Iron ore, where's iron ore? Iron ore is the iron colour, and you can just see there. Now, the next chart I want to show you is showing you the amount of revenue, state government revenue, that came in 1920 from iron ore. It accounts for about 84% of all of the royalties the Western Australian government receives. And it's 24% of their revenue, everyone. That's a big chunk. That is a big chunk. Guys, so no wonder, and I'm just going to test, I brought this into my slide deck, there we go, it's working. No wonder the Premier there is concerned with antagonizing China. I mean, there you go. That's where their loyalties lie. If only. Well, it explains why they can splash so much cash on housing, guys. And WA, I was talking to a gentleman at a party the other day. He immigrated to Australia from Holland years ago. It was 40 years in Perth. And the reason he picked Perth was because it was the most remote city in the world. When he came over here, they asked where you want to go, and they couldn't give him any information on Perth. So he went there, which I thought was quite interesting. They went there recently and Perth's changed. They've moved over to this side of the country, and Perth has grown up. It's really grown up. So let's have a look at this article with calls to stop antagonizing China. I mean, China is our biggest trade partner. So they're going to be people that are calling for an end to the antagonization. And there's cultural differences as well. From a Western perspective to an Asian perspective. I mean, you just see it with Asian friends. It's very different. So, Australia's biggest exporting state on Tuesday urged Canberra to stop antagonizing China, the country's top trade partner, in remarks that came amid escalating criticisms of Beijing, led by the United States, Australia's main ally. This isn't about kowtowing to other countries and giving in, West Australian Premier Mark McGowan said at Australia's biggest oil and gas industry conference being held in Perth. There needs to be a national reset in that relationship. Ties with China worsened last year when Australia called for an independent investigation into the origins of the novel coronavirus, which sparked trade reprisals from China, hitting Australian goods ranging from barley and coal to lobster and wine. Relationships had already soured after Australia banned Chinese tech giant Huawei from the country's 5G network in 2018, beseeching the federal government to stop talk of conflict and trade retaliation. McGowan asked, "How is it in our interest to be reckless with trade relationships that fund and drive our prosperity and our nation forward?" McGowan's comments came 2 days after the Group of 7 leaders meeting in Britain chided China over a wide range of issues, sparking an angry response from Beijing. Attending the G7 meeting as a guest, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison met with US President Joe Biden and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to discuss Indo-Pacific security. Western Australia's top exports, iron ore and liquefied natural gas, have so far escaped China's trade reprisals, with China heavily dependent on Australia's iron ore for its steel industry, increasingly reliant on gas for power generation as it looks to cut emissions from coal. Yeah, sure. The number of coal power plants that China has? Yeah, okay. So I've got a map here, and I'll just bring this up, showing you all of the coal power plants in China. And as we zoom in, we can see, let's just click on that one. There you go, 330 megawatts. Let's click on that one. 60 megawatts. Let's click on that one. Operating 350. This one operating 660 megawatts. So, yeah, maybe there's a future market for LPG in Australia, or liquid natural gas, LNG. But have a look at how many coal plants they have. Now, what I'll bring up as well, just to compare here in Australia, is our energy market. Now you can see here, what do we have in Victoria? Now, here we go. Look at this. We've got Yulon power plant. Because of the flooding, it's down, and that's a big issue, but it's only at 69%. 360 megawatts. You've got 116%, 570. That's the coal power plants in Victoria. Okay. Just putting it in perspective, the scale of our industry compared to China, particularly when people call for environmental restrictions here in Australia, or even a sense of guilt here in Australia, guys. Come on. Seriously. Okay? So, I mean, we'll see if they cut coal emissions. You can not blame me for being a little skeptical. Woodside Petroleum, one of Australia's biggest LNG exporters, said the political dispute had not affected its LNG sales or its relationship with Chinese shipyards that are building a production platform for the company's Senegal oil project. There's political tension that's coming to bear in certain elements of trade, but for our product and business relationships that we have, we're not seeing any spillover. Woodside's acting chief executive Meg O'Neill told reporters on the sidelines of the APPEA conference. West Australian exports $104 billion worth of goods to China in 2020, making up 71% of Australian goods exported to China. So what are the solutions to this, everyone? What really are the solutions? I've just got an issue here. Well, is this just a lot of fear-mongering? While the Premier might be worried, it could also be political because you have a Labor Premier and you've got a Liberal Prime Minister. So we've got to weigh that up as well. And as we see here, the price of iron ore, well, it's speaking another language, isn't it? Woodside have noticed no issues. It's only to do with industries, well, which they can afford to dent, but iron ore is still going strong. What do you reckon? Are you worried, everyone? Do you think it's an issue that we need to deal with? Or is it just civil to be concerned with saving face with our biggest trading partner? Let me know your opinions on that one in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can sign up for SelfWealth or Stake. You can use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can even buy our own merch, handmade pocket squares, made in our very own sweatshop right here in this house by Rachel. You can support us by using Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or good old PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.